To me, styling is everything. I don't care if the car starts and runs as long as it looks good. When I was 6, I started drawing cars. While I was an editor of Carcraft and Hot Rod magazines and a staff writer for Car and Driver in my 20s and 30s, I was into rods and especially American custom cars. It's amazing how grotesque many customs can be. Styling is a very subjective thing, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I'm not a hands-on builder. I'm a wannabe stylist, a visionary with an American Express card. My goal is to create a car that looks great but is unique from all others. Most of all the cars I've had built for me are copies of or were inspired by a car that someone else designed. I started out with customs. In 1982, I bought the Sonny and Cher 59 Caddy, which they had used as a prop on their TV show. I drove it 3,000 miles from LA to Jersey. What a 5-mile-per-gallon adventure that was. The throttle stuck wide open the first time I pulled out on the freeway. I had 6-foot-long steel bubble skirts made for it and put hydraulics and red fuzzy dingle balls on it. It was the first East Coast lowrider and the first Caddy custom on the East Coast. It's now in Tokyo, and I wish I had never sold it. I've owned 2 Eldorado Bromes, a candy apple red 57 with a stainless roof and a burgundy 60 with a pearl white roof. In 1990, I bought Lee Pratt's two-tone purple 41 Buick sedanette with hydraulics. I drove it to Maine, the Mississippi River, and to Miami at least twice. I went overboard on the dingleball interior decoration. It was my daily driver for years. Sorry I ever sold that one. It was a thing of beauty, even with Roman candles in the tailpipes. In high school, I'd sketch a 56 Lincoln Custom with hooded headlights and dual inverted 53 Studebaker grill pan shells surrounding the front bumper. In 1998, I bought a 56 and had the top chopped and extended the fenders 18 inches. I was in my tongue-in-cheek, purposely over-the-top, extreme exaggeration period of building rides that were intended to be a satire of the American custom car. I'll show you, longer, lower, wider. I called the car Titanic because any car over 20 feet long is a ship. We toured England, France, Belgium, and Germany with the car. My 63 Underbird had bubble skirts, hydraulics, and a hacksaw hanging below the license plate for a club plaque. It had a lift-off Caddy 4-door flat roof and wrap-around Venetian blinds in the rear window. Aqua and black zebra skin upholstery and matching scallops, having fun pushing the limits of how tacky you can get. I built some Bucks-Down customs like my yellow 93 Buick Roadmaster wagon. We laid the A-pillars and back window down, chopping the top 4 inches. We bagged it, made skirts for it, welded one rear door closed, and blanked off the rear quarters, making it into a sedan delivery. I've always loved sedan deliveries. I traded it for a Harley Sportster, to which I added a streamlined body for my Deco Liner Zephyr. It's the only motorcycle I ever owned. If I ever got another bike, I want it to look like this BMW concept. Let's face it, I'm a pontoon fender junkie. The most famous custom car I ever built was a 39 Lincoln Zephyr with hydraulics. Jokingly, I named it Scrape because when parked, the rocker panels sat flat on the ground. It took 4 years for Ramsey Mosher to build it for $109,000, and I sold it for $275,000 and started the Zephyr craze. It instantly doubled the value of every Zephyr or Zephyr part on the planet. One sold for $425,000 at Barrett-Jackson, another for $430,000. Scrape was hot rod history, as it was the first rodder custom to lay frame, dropping the main rails and rockers to sit flat on the ground using hydraulics or airbags, a practice that is commonplace today. Like the way a fine gourmet meal looks, it's a matter of presentation of a piece of art. I had fiberglass molds made of the Zephyr, and under my Deco Rides banner sold 150 Zephyr bodies in 4 body styles as coupes, convertibles, fastbacks, and sedan deliveries. I even considered a Zephyr Dymaxion, imitating Buckminster Fuller's creation. My glass cars can be found in Moscow, Slovenia, the UAE, England, New Zealand, Australia, as well as the USA and Canada. It freaked me out when I walked into the Dubai Auto Show and one of my Zephyr coupes was on display in the lobby. My Deco Liner delivery with matching Harley that pops out the back door on a ramp sits in the Lohman Museum in The Hague, Netherlands. Mattel made a 1/16th scale die-cast of Scrape, and of all the things I've ever done, the thing that impressed my kids the most was when they could walk into a Walmart and buy one of Dad's purple Hot Wheels Zephyrs. My strange friend Barry Weiss of Storage Wars now owns Scrape and drives it like a dirt bike. Customs were the foundation of my car-building adventures, but that all changed in 1995 when I went to the Reading, PA concours and saw a car that changed my life. It was the 1939 Achille Van Voren-bodied Shah of Persia Type 57 Pagani with retractable windshield and sweeping pontoon front fenders. So I was hooked, passionate about European coach-built cars. I feel 1936 to 48 was the golden era of car design before fenders became incorporated into slab-sided bodies. Not all coach-built cars were beautiful. Most were pretty, but a small number of them, the top 1%, were beyond incredible. I'm talking about truly organic, supple, and downright sexual styling. German carrossiers Erdmann and Rossi and their chief designer Johann Bischow rocked the automotive world with their streamlined fastback at the 1933 Berlin Auto Show. They were seeking good fuel economy through streamlining. They followed up in 1935 with this fully enclosed front and rear wheel Mercedes Roadster, which may have influenced Pagani with the enclosed front fender pontoon treatment. One of my two favorite designers is Giuseppe Joseph Pagani. Born in Italy in 1894, his family moved to Paris when he was 8. By 14, he was an apprentice wagon maker, learning the art of building luxury vehicles by hand. After serving in World War I, he opened his own body repair shop in Paris, Carrossier Automobile. He produced bodies for Talbot Lago, Delahaye, Alfa Romeo, Delage, Panhard, and Bugatti. In 1935, stylist Pagani joined forces with moneyman Ovidio Falaschi, and the most famous coach-building shop was born that lasted until 1952. A few of the incredible cars they created include the 1936 Delahaye 135 and 135M, the 1937 and 38 Talbot Lagos, and the 1939 Delahaye 165, considered to be the most beautiful cars in history. My other favorite European designer was French dentist and aerodynamicist Georges Paulin. From 1934 to 1938, he worked for coach builder Marcel Porteau, designing bodies for Panhard, Delage, Peugeot, and Talbot Lago. From 1938 to 39, he worked exclusively for Rolls-Royce and Bentley. His Delage D8 120S Porte-Tote Aero Coupe is now owned by Sam Mann. It is a leading candidate for the best-looking car in the world. It lacks exterior brightwork trim and gingerbread and lets the body line do the talking. While Pagani and Paulin were probably the two most prolific producers of the best-looking cars on the planet, several other guys rank there with my favorite designers. One is Russian cabinet maker turned coach builder Jacques Souchak. He started a top-class coach building shop in a Paris suburb in 1906. He was known for very expensive, flamboyant cars. He designed and built bodies for Bugatti, Delahaye, Pegaso, Azzaro Francini, Bucciali, Mercedes-Benz, Talbot Lago, and the incredible Hispano-Suiza Dubonnet Xenia. After he died in 1955, the market for ostentatious Souchak designs evaporated, and the company ceased trading in 1955. Ironically, Souchak and Pagani both simultaneously went through their thankfully brief proboscis monkey nose period. I love the work of Jean Bugatti. He teamed with lead designer at Bugatti, Joseph Walther. While Bugattis were never as supple or swoopy as Paulin or Pagani's cars, they have a certain je ne sais quoi about them. I also have a thing for the bizarre cars of Gabriel Voisin and some of the work of Germans Erdmann and Rossi. The 1937 Horch 853 Sport Cabriolet by Vohl and Rubrecht, the Hartmann Cadillac, and the Delage V12 Lamborghini Vautal, designed by Jean Andreau, are three of the cars that light my fire. As for American designers, I like the unheralded Vince Gardner. He was Gordon Bureg's clay modeler at Auburn Cord Duesenberg. He designed the 810 and 812 Cord and second-generation Auburn Boattail Speedster. As is so often the case, the boss gets the credit while the guys behind the scenes who do the real design work never get mentioned. Does that sound familiar? Another guy I like is Bob E. L. Gregory, possibly the first real stylist at Ford. He did the English Model Y Ford, the Continental, the Zephyr, and possibly had his fingers in the 1949 Mercury. I met him. Here's a picture of Edsel's close friend, the late E. L. Bob Gregory, with one of my glass Deco Rides Zephyr convertibles. He also designed boats. I love the work of Larry Erickson, who did ZZ Top's Cadzilla, his 32 Chevy that should have won America's Most Beautiful Roadster Award at the 2003 Grand National Roadster Show, his new Bonneville Roadster, and the Smoothster 37 Ford. Politically incorrect Larry Shinoda was another friend. Here is a model of a dragster streamliner that never got built, and the 63 Stingray and Boss 302 Mustang that did. He called designers car shaders. Harry Westergaard of Sacramento was the guru of the American custom car, who had two local kids named Barris sweeping out his shop. Where my scrape Zephyr was inspired by Westergaard and the French streamliners of the late 30s, the European coach-built influence really started to take hold with my boat-tail project. In the summer of 1998, I saw a Chip Fu sketch of a stylized Auburn boat-tail speedster. Because the fiberglass Zephyrs were selling like hotcakes, I decided to hire Chip to design the Generation 1 open wheel well version. From 1999 to 2002, I had a buck and fiberglass molds made. The first Deco Rides boat-tail speedster was called Creamsicle, an open wheel well car, and it was completed in July of 2004. It was Viper-powered thanks to Tom Gale. Where my Zephyrs and early boat-tails were all built under the Deco Rides banner, I applied for and received the U.S. trademark for Delahaye USA, which I felt lent instant cachet and credibility to my cars, even if most hot rodders had never heard of Delahaye. The second boat-tail I had built, the Fucerati, had a Maserati Quattroporte V8. The Gen 1 rear fenders were enclosed with the front fenders open, showing the wheel. A clear plastic lid replaced the top of the air cleaner to let everybody look down on the carburetors. As a joke, I named my cars such as Scrape, Titanic, Underbird, Bugnati, Pacific, Bugnaughty. The whole thing is about having fun with cars and not taking it all too seriously. Because I had an addiction to pontoon fenders, I designed almond-shaped enclosed envelope pontes all around, creating the Generation 2 boat-tail speedster, reminiscent of Joseph Pagoni's Type 135 Delahaye. Because it was a boat-tail and influenced at the Lake Tahoe wood boat Concours, I had real wood laminated on the nose and deck into one of my boat-tail bodies that was based on a wrecked 97 C5 Corvette. Because it had no fenders, I called it the High Boy, spelled B-U-O-Y. Then I added my first set of Gen 2 pontoons, cloaking the wheels. Next, inspired by Frank Lockhart's 1928 Speed record car, I built a boat-tail in tribute to him with floating pontoons on the rear and thin little envelopantes on the front. The headlights steered with the front wheels. As a joke, the small block Ford had a set of real Ferrari V12 valve covers bolted on top of the Ford V8. I came close to my goal of building a hot rod Auburn boat-tail, a Cord 810, and a Duesenberg clone. I sold the unfinished Cord and hope the buyer completes it so my trifecta will become reality. Two of the nicest boat-tails I designed and had built were the Bugnati with a Type 57 grill shell and thin spears wrapping around the fenders, and the Type 57S Bugnaughty with wide spears embracing the pontoons. I loved the flared exhausts and the Hudson hood ornaments used as taillights. One of my biggest challenges was a 4-year 2005 to 2009 undertaking, a 1939 Pagani and Falaschi aluminum-bodied Type 165 Delahaye clone I called Project Passion. Sadly, I chose the wrong panel beaters. After going way over budget with two incompetent shops, one in Ohio and one in New Hampshire, the customer pulled the project with the car 90% completed. I should have used Mike Cleaves of Automobile Metal Shaping, as he is the best panel beater I've ever met. The car ran and drove with a BMW V12 engine and trans. It had power convertible top, power windows, power dual retractable windshields, and power rumble seat and deck lid when it left. The car was finished and is now in Sam Pack's collection in Carrollton, Texas. The third set of molds I had built were of a Type 57S Pagani on a 10-inch longer than stock 127-inch wheelbase. First we made the coupe, then a fastback, then a hardtop coupe with no B-post, and finally a drophead. I jokingly called the fastback the Pacific, as it was my version of Ralph Lauren's Atlantic. It had brocade fabric, BMW V12 power plant, and air conditioning. The most recent project I've completed is my 88% scale Maharaja Duesenberg tribute with power windows, air conditioning, power brakes, and steering. It is for sale for $279,000. I have 3 unfinished projects, all of which are for sale. The first is a 1947 Jag Mark IV saloon that I'm transforming into a 5-window coupe. I was going to make it into a chopped drophead. It has a blown LSA caddy and was formerly owned by James Hetfield, lead singer of the band Metallica. The second is a fiberglass 1935 Type 57S Gangloff drophead with folding top, power windows, and small block Chevy power. The third is the Sultan. I had this steel body made in Thailand. It's sitting on a 1953 Bentley chassis and has a new old stock Mark V Rolls-Royce straight 8 engine and Bentley automatic transmission. These are Photoshop images to show you what the car could look like when completed. In closing, I'm looking for a patron so I can finish these projects. I'm just still following my dream.